Experts believe that the human eye can perceive only between 30 to 60 frames per second. Saying that, our displays with 75 Hz, 100 Hz, 144 Hz, or even 280 Hz just a joke? In reality, the situation is a bit more complex. Hello, delighted to meet you again in this enlightening video segment. In your opinion, how many frames per second can the human eye distinguish? Or what is the largest slum in the world? Welcome to 1001 Facts That Will Make You Wiser, Part 2. According to HealLife.com, experts believe that the human eye can perceive only between 30 to 60 frames per second. Saying that, our displays with 75 Hz, 100 Hz, 144 Hz, or even 280 Hz just a joke? In reality, the situation is a bit more complex. A vivid example is when you look at speakers that only have bass drivers emitting low-frequency sounds down to 20 Hz, creating visible movements on the speaker diaphragm that the human eye can observe. Tweeters, on the other hand, emit sounds with high frequencies ranging from 2,000 Hz to tens of thousands of Hz, and their movements cannot be perceived, meaning that basic scientists are not wrong when they assert that the eyes of most people find it difficult to perceive and distinguish movements on screens with a refresh rate of 60 frames per second or higher. However, screen manufacturers have reasons to introduce products with increasingly higher refresh rates, and their common characteristic is that they are all designed to cater to gamers. For those who may not know, the refresh rate of a monitor, also referred to as the refresh speed, is simply the maximum number of images it can display in 1 second, measured in Hz HC. In simpler terms, it is equivalent to frames per second, FPS, or the number of frames displayed per second. Monitors designed for office work, graphic design, and video editing, including Infinity News displays, often have a relatively modest refresh rate, typically ranging from 50 to 75 Hz. Meanwhile, a 144 Hz monitor seems to have become a standard choice for a typical gamer. For try-hard gamers or professional esports athletes, they may demand monitors with refresh rates reaching up to 280 Hz. The question that arises is, for what purpose? Firstly, professional gamers have better reflexes than ordinary individuals. They possess the ability to discern movements at a faster pace than average people, like you and me. A monitor with a higher refresh rate provides more information, helping pro gamers detect or anticipate their opponent's movements more effectively. Having more frames per second also means that your target appears in more frames, increasing the likelihood of hitting the target.
Nice.
Although there is no comprehensive study indicating how many frames per second a professional gamer can distinguish, according to 100fps.com, tests conducted with U.S. pilots showed that they could identify the image of an aircraft in a picture projected in just 1/220 of a second, which is equivalent to the perceptual ability of a 220 Hz monitor refresh rate. The human limits may be much higher than that. Secondly, when you move the mouse cursor rapidly across the screen, you will observe more than one cursor, with one being sharp and the others appearing blurry, like trailing shadows. Similarly, when you scroll a web page at rocket speed, the text lines suddenly become blurred and almost unreadable, only returning to clarity when you stop scrolling. Of course, few people consider this an issue until a similar phenomenon occurs when you quickly move your gun in the game, and you see a blurry, ghostly image of the gun trailing behind. This phenomenon is called screen ghosting. Screen ghosting is when you see the image from the previous frame lingering as you transition to the current frame, creating the sensation of a ghost chasing after you. The two main direct causes of this phenomenon are low refresh rates and a high monitor response time. If the refresh rate is the number of frames displayed per second, then response time is the duration it takes for a monitor to convert the CPU and GPU commands into image signals by changing the color of the pixels. In simpler terms, response time is the time it takes for the pixels on the screen to change color. When the refresh rate is low and the response time is high, the monitor is not fast enough to display the newly updated images, and that is how screen ghosting is created. More specifically, screen ghosting occurs when the screen refreshes while the physical pixels are still busy transitioning from one color to another due to the prolonged response time of the monitor. A typical office monitor usually has a refresh rate of 50 to 60 Hz and a response time ranging from 5 to 8 milliseconds. In contrast, high-end gaming monitors often have refresh rates of 144 Hz and above, with response times as low as 1 millisecond. In summary, while scientific evidence may prove that a 60 Hz monitor is sufficient for most people, monitors with high and very high refresh rates are still designed to provide an optimal gaming experience. If you haven't watched the Indian movie Slumdog Millionaire, a slum is an extremely densely populated urban residential area characterized by poorly constructed, low-quality houses, often accompanied by poverty. You can find slums in many major cities worldwide, such as Paris, France, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Jakarta, Indonesia, Cape Town, South Africa, Caracas, Venezuela, Nairobi, Kenya, Cairo, Egypt, Buenos Aires, Argentina, Shanghai, China, Mumbai, India, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and many other cities. In terms of population size, Oranchi Town in Karachi City, southern Pakistan is the largest slum on Earth with about 2.4 million people crowded together in an area of only 60 square kilometers compatible with population density, up to 40,000 people per square kilometer. It is 134 times the population density of Vietnam, 16.3 times the population density of Hanoi, and 9 times that of Ho Chi Minh City. While it may sound horrifying, the air in Orangi is still relatively comfortable compared to Dharavi. 1 million people in this slum area in India have to share just 2.1 square kilometers of land, equivalent to a staggering population density of 476,000 people per square kilometer. Expanding a bit, according to the 2016 report by UN Habitat, the United Nations Programme for Human Settlements and Sustainable Urban Development, 1 in 8 people are living in slums, which equates to nearly 1 billion people around the world living in slum conditions. It is understood as places that are excessively crowded, with flimsy and inadequate housing lacking windows, dirty floors, walls, and leaky roofs. These areas often lack or have limited access to basic amenities such as electricity, water, sanitation facilities, and transportation. Additionally, residents may not have legal rights to land usage. According to the compilation by WorldAtlas.com, 14 out of 15 countries with urban population living in slums, over 70% belong to Africa. Topping the list is South Sudan with 96%, followed by the Central African Republic with 93% and Sudan with 92%. Today, slums are primarily found in the urban areas of developing countries, particularly those with high rates of urbanization. Urbanization is also the primary factor that led to the proliferation of slums, which were prevalent in the United States and Europe from the 19th to the late 20th century. The concept of slums, often referred to as mouse holes, is believed to have originated from the eastern region of London. Before the 19th century in London, the rich and the poor coexisted in the same neighborhoods. The wealthy lived on luxurious and bustling main streets, while the poor resided in the quieter, less vibrant back streets. However, by the 19th century, the affluent began moving out of the increasingly crowded city, leaving behind the impoverished residents and giving rise to an urban landscape dominated by the poor. It is believed that the term slum originated as a slang word in the East End area, with the meaning of living space gradually evolving from back slum around 1845, signifying the narrow alleys or streets inhabited by the poor. By the early 20th century, slums became prevalent in the United States. The Five Points neighborhood in Manhattan, New York, is recognized as the country's first notorious slum, reportedly established around 1825. Over its more than 70 years of existence, it consistently ranked among the world's most infamous slums, characterized by overcrowding, rampant diseases, and its own share of crime. Returning to the present day, alongside the migration of populations from rural to urban areas, slums can also emerge due to pressures from economic stagnation or downturns leading to increased unemployment rates. Natural disasters, political instability, social conflicts, or inadequate planning can result in the destruction of homes, contributing to the formation of slums. Thank you for watching this video in its entirety. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to write them in the comments section below. Thank you. Goodbye, and see you again.